So let's dig in a little more to why it is so important. Let's look at the data on why it's so important to create a career you love, why it matters to find your unique talents and align your purpose and your paycheck. A really interesting statistic is that McKinsey found that 70% of people say that their purpose is largely defined by their work. Gallup has shown that individuals are 6 times more engaged when they are using their strengths at work. And McKinsey also found that 40% of individuals were considering leaving their work because they were feeling burnout. And one of the interesting things that I want you to think about is there are many different types of burnout. There is burnout from overwork, but there is also a type of burnout that is called rust out. And that's coming from not doing enough things that use your unique talents, that use your genius zone. And so you go to work every day and you feel like there's this part of you that's just left unexpressed. You feel like you're not living up to your full potential. You feel like you're not doing the things that you're best at. And so it causes rust out. And that's what I had driving home those days. I was not overworking. My cause of burnout was coming from not using the things, the gifts, and the talents that I had been born to use. So how do we find this unique talent of ours? I know sometimes it's so easy to overlook these things. It really just starts by asking ourselves a series of questions. And these questions are in your workbook, and I'm going to give you a hint that this is going to be your homework. But one of the things that I had to start asking myself when I knew just deep down in my gut that it was going to be time to leave that job, well, I had to think about, well, what is it that I want to do? What do I want to make sure that I'm finding in my next role? How do I want to be spending my time? And so I had to ask myself that question that I gave you in your homework in the previous video, which is, what am I doing when I am feeling the most in flow? Another question that I love to have you ask is, where do you geek out? Like, think about a time at work where you were just totally geeked out. You were jamming on all cylinders. The ideas were coming. You could have worked on it for hours. You were just all into your work and you didn't care who noticed or if they thought you were a big geek or not because you were having fun. Another thing that I want you to think about is, where do you tend to lose track of time? What are you working on when you just become so absorbed that you lose all track of time and 4 hours can go by and you just didn't even know it? Another thing that you can look at is, what are you really passionate about? What do you love to talk about with others? And so I always ask folks, hey, what is that one topic that nobody should get in a corner with you because you are not letting them out of it? Really thinking about, what are these things I just love to learn about, I love to talk about, I love to dive deep into. An interesting thing about our unique talents is this: they are really hard for us to see because it comes so easy for us. What just seems to be so easy for you that is really hard for others? That can also be another clue that that's a talent for you. And that's also another part of this assignment that I really encourage you to do, is to ask other people, because other people can often easily see what a unique talent is for you because it's so easy for you. It's so hard for them. And so of course they can see it. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how easily you do X, Y, and Z. It's so hard for me and for everyone else. So I really encourage you to ask people you know and love and trust, what do you think that I do better than anyone else? I had a client who we were doing some of this unique genius work together, because one of the things that she was really experiencing was a lot of imposter syndrome and doubt at work. She had recently been promoted, and she was now in meetings with higher level leaders and with new people across the organization. And she noticed that when she would go into these meetings, she really put those other folks on a pedestal, believing that they had all the talents, that they had all the answers, that they knew all of the right things to do. She said, Kelli, it's almost like I would go into these meetings and forget everything about myself because I was just so quickly falling into compare and despair, thinking that they knew all the things and they had, more talent than I did, and I had none of the talents. And so we really focused on, what is that special thing that only you have to offer? What is that unique insight that you offer? What's that unique talent that you bring to the table? And after doing some of this work and doing some of the questions and doing some of the interviewing of asking other people, she became very clear on what her talents were. And she said, one of the things that was really helpful for me was that owning my talents felt like the antidote to imposter feelings. It felt like the antidote to doubt in those moments, because now I knew why I was in the room. I was the only person in that room who could see things this way. I was the only person in that room who had this talent to contribute to the organization. And when I saw my talents more clearly, it was easier to see the talents of others without falling into compare and despair. So next, I want to take you on another way that you can find your unique talents. So I want you to pause as your homework, your first little homework assignment is going to be to answer those questions I walked you through, to get feedback from other people who know, love, and trust you so they can often see what your talents are easier than you can see. And then I'm going to give you another easy clue to find out what your unique talents are.